Hello, everyone. This is Doug Blecher, the host of Autism Stories, a podcast dedicated to learning from autistic people. Over the last 2 years, I've interviewed several mental health therapists, including an art therapist and a clinical sexologist. Here, I'd like to share some insights about their practice. I think that by hearing their stories, you'll get an idea of what makes each person great at their profession.
So to start, I think there's a huge misunderstanding in the mental health community about what autism actually is, especially for certain populations, women, minority populations, people that maybe aren't being identified. And so I think for some reason we're very far behind in that understanding. And for me, even I noticed when I was in grad school and undergrad, the information we were presented about autism was very minimal, like this very stereotypical view of a little boy that's lining up trains, and there wasn't really more beyond that. And I learned now in my own experiences that I had to do a lot of that research on my own to come to those understandings, that that's not something that's a part of our education as counselors. And I think that's a huge part of the issue, is that we need to be educating people in the field about what autism actually looks like for a wide variety of people and what that spectrum actually can present as, so that we can recognize it in our clients and help them when that comes up. But also, once I actually meet people that could be a client or people that are already clients, I work with them so that we create an environment that feels safe. So it's not like just traditional talk therapy where you go in and you sit down. We talk about what are the different methods that we can do therapy. Is it better over the phone? Is it better over chat, video? Kind of giving them different options about what would be comfortable for them. And then also in the actual therapy process, they're a huge part of that. So what is it they want to work on, not what I think they should work on.
Yeah. So in my case, a couple things. I try to be pretty casual. Like, I do not have much of a professional facade. Now, part of that is because that's my personality. But another part is because, especially for, most of my clients are on the autism spectrum at this point, and that professional facade, that is hiding the social signals that they need to be able to kind of track what you're thinking and feeling. Like, they're already struggling with that. So to add this facade on top of the other ways that they might be, struggling to track social information is just even more confusing. So I make sure that I do that as little as possible. And that if there is a source of potential confusion, I'm right on it. Like, and I mean this, or here's where I'm coming from. I try to be very down to earth, plain spoken. I'm kind of naturally inclined to be verbose or to use larger vocabulary. But I want to be real with people and to share something of myself and my reasoning and be pretty open with them about here's how I'm thinking, here's where I'm coming from on this issue, rather than keeping the counseling process mysterious. I'm checking in with them. I'm making sure that I am really trying to understand, hey, what are you going through? I will often say things like, my impression is, or does this seem true to you? Or one possibility is, rather than saying, you're experiencing this. Because I don't know what's going on in their lives. They're the ones reporting it to me. I need to be able to check in with them. I think that helps my clients feel heard.
Therapy is traditionally, where you have two people sitting in a room with a tissue box in the middle and a plant in the corner. It's a very controlled environment. And it's controlled, because people feel like this needs to be controlled, this needs to be contained. But actually, real life is not contained. The real context that people live in is out in the real world. So I think, there are other ways to contain that relationship and to be safe, but in the context of the real world, which allows the person to just exist and have a relationship that isn't pulled out of the context of everything that they're dealing with. So for example, we're, outside and there's a loud noise and they react to that noise. That is part of their real experience of the world, and how they react to that and how they explain that to me and how I react to them is a real relationship. There's something about the sort of excitement and rapport that two people who can connect in a way that's sort of maybe seen as atypical in the outside world, that can be a really big and exciting and transformational thing.
And so art therapy really helps kind of slow it down and externalize it. Like sometimes if someone's comes in really angry and they're not entirely sure about what, we'll make a sculpture of like, okay, if this anger was a monster, or like what would this monster look like? And in that process, the mind is able to access different points to be like, oh, I didn't realize this. And like it slows down enough that you can start to separate this pile of emotion and understand it better. Because art therapy can be working on a subconscious level as well as a conscious level. Like the directives we're designing are like, hey, how do we accomplish these goals? And at the same time, I can be having those art directives also work on physical aspects. So a lot of autistic people also experience motor difficulties or, balance in their bodies. And so sometimes my client doesn't even know it, but I'm picking tasks that are helping them refine those skills at the same time and kind of increase their dexterity.
I think it's really important that clients know when they're telling me how they feel in a certain situation in life that I know exactly how they feel. Because the biggest thing I hear from my clients is that when they have seen therapists in the past who are probably neurotypical, they are guessing that they're feeling anxious in certain situations for completely the wrong reasons. Whereas as soon as they bring a situation up to me, I typically know what it was that was triggering that anxiety in that setting because I've experienced it. Yeah, I think a lot of neurodivergent folks, especially if I'm their first therapist, they really don't know what goals they want to work towards, right? They just want to feel better. And more importantly, I would say probably their first goal is just to be understood by their therapist. So when you have these therapists who not only want to diagnose and create a treatment plan in the very first session, that's just not as flexible as therapy needs to be neurodivergent affirming, in my opinion. So it's sort of like, you start coming up with a lot of the goals that are in the medical pathology as well. And then they start to become very behavioral oriented, measurable, objective goals. And again, those aren't things that neurodivergent people are very good at tracking or meeting criteria for. I just really try to help clients focus on what does progress look and feel like, making sure we're on the right track.
People think that because I'm a clinical sexologist, I talk about sex all day long. Actually, maybe 5% of conversations that I have talk about sex itself, right? The other 95% of those conversations are really about how we can be authentic and accepted so that we can enjoy and participate in all aspects of our lives because they intersect. So I like to use the example because this is one that happens in both neurodivergent and neurotypical relationships, and it causes problems equally across the board. You're in the kitchen and you're doing the dishes or you're cooking, and your partner comes up behind you and they wrap their arms around you and they give you a kiss on the side of your face or on your neck. Your body tenses up and immediately you're irritated or agitated or you push them off. It could be because the touch surprised you. It could be because they didn't let you know that they were coming to touch you. But equally, there's this confusion of why did they touch me? What did that touch mean? And what do they want in return? And that's really important. This makes a huge difference for couples to have this conversation. For somebody to come up and say, before they touch you, I'm going to hug you, I love you, and I'm just doing this because I want to hug you and I want you to know I love you. I don't expect anything in return. Now, I don't have that confusion.
Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe to keep learning from Autistic Voices.